Okay. I can't remember where I was. I'm recording this evening's session and it will be available on Ollie's website within a week. The agenda calls for self-introductions followed by tonight's speaker. So let's get started with self-introductions. I am Michael Bowes, with Executive Director of Ollie. Can I reduce Laura? Can you reduce your, so I can?
Oh yeah, the slideshow. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, wait. I can figure this out.
Or I could stop share for a minute.
Okay.
There.
So let's see who's here. Pat Pearson, introduce yourself.
Hi, I just love these types of programs. My husband and I go all over the Calumet region. We bike, we bird, we do park cleanups, and so we just like to know what's going on. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Humble with pride.
Jane Healy.
Hi, I'm Jane Healy. I am a high school biology and other science teacher at St. Francis de Sales, which is in the Calumet region, and I live right off of the Cal-Sag Channel in Blue Islands, so I know the Little Calumet pretty well.
Humble.
Dave Matura.
Yes, thank you. Mike, did you say Dave Matura?
I certainly did.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can barely hear you. I can hear everyone else, but barely hear you.
Okay, is this better?
No.
Okay. Okay, I don't know what else I can do.
Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. Dave Matura, I'm a Whiting resident and I like to stay active in environmental issues, and I'm deeply concerned about our the environment in general and typically our decay. So I like to keep abreast about what's going on, be it good or
Stay
bad.
humble.
John Knotts. Joan Barghusen.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. I'm a resident of Northwest Indiana and interested in environmental things and happen to be Laura's mother. So I am following the things that she does there along the Calumet River with interest. So I'm here to listen.
All right. Wayne.
Okay, I'm a longtime naturalist and also retired school teacher, and head up a program called Caretakers in Environment International, which engage high school students learning in, about, and from the environment and sharing it globally. So, so I'm naturally interested in the exciting things that are happening in Little Calumet, in the Calumet region.
Humble.
Okay, Blake.
Hello, I'm here. How you doing?
All right, good to see you.
I have trouble getting my face on because of my computer, and it's not acting right.
Okay.
But I'm doing my best to hear you.
Okay. Thanks, Blake. Ted, you want to introduce yourself?
I don't know if my speaker's working, but Ted Karamansky, I teach public history at Loyola University in Chicago.
Okay, Lisa. Eve.
Yes, yep, I'm here, Lisa Soa Downs. I live in Hegewisch. I volunteer with the Cub Scouts and also on the Hegewisch Times, and am part of the water testing at Wolf Lake. Is that enough, Mike?
That's enough. Keep them busy.
Yeah.
Eve. Michael.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. I'm Eve Doré. I'm from Whiting and I'm an interested citizen.
All right. Lee Coffey? Okay. And last, Laura Barghusen. She's tonight's speaker, and you'll learn all about what she's doing in just a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Laura Barghusen, and I'm Blueways Director at Openlands. And I'm here today to talk about work that Openlands and many partners have been doing along the Little Calumet River near Beaubien Woods and in the neighborhoods west of Beaubien Woods.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to listening to you tonight. So why don't you just take over?
Okay, let me see if I can reshare the screen here. There we go. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, that's fine, Laura.
Great. All right. Yeah, thank you for having me speak today. As I just said, I'm Laura Barghusen, Blueways Director at Openlands. And I'm going to be talking about the work that Openlands and partners are doing along the Little Calumet River, reaching really into the Calsag Channel as well, to restore ecological health and connect communities and neighborhoods to the river. My talk tonight is called Biodiversity and Community in the Calumet, Creating Access and Restoring Open Spaces along the Little Calumet River. And I spoke about this project a whole year ago in this forum, a little more than a year ago. And this is going to be my 2023 update, where I talk about the work that we're currently doing, which has really been focused in Beaubien Woods, which is a forest preserve district of Cook County preserve on the Little Calumet River. That's roughly at 130th Street and the Bishop Ford Expressway, immediately east of. Uh-oh. I can't get my screen to move. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Let's see. I'm gonna try to reshare.
Okay.
With it not in presenter mode and put it in presenter mode.
Okay.
Okay, it moved. All right. And Openlands is a nonprofit that does open space preservation, enhancement, and education to give people access to nature where they live. And I mostly on waterways, helping to ensure that neighborhoods have access to the waterways, and also working to improve water quality and aquatic habitat. And Openlands, which was founded in 1963, protects the natural and open spaces of northeastern Illinois and the surrounding region to ensure cleaner air and water, and to protect natural habitats and wildlife, and to help balance and enrich our lives. So that's our mission. The work at Beaubien Woods that I'm gonna cover tonight exists within a framework for improving the and the quality of life along the Little Calumet River. And this framework is presented in the Little Calumet River Conservation Action Plan, which was authored by Openlands, the Field Museum, and the Metropolitan Planning Council, and which was completed in 2021. So the Little Calumet River Conservation Action Plan covers the lower Little Calumet River, which is in this red box called project area here, between its confluence with the Grand Calumet on the east and the Calsag Channel on the west. The river is located near the southern border of Chicago, and it flows towards the city of Blue Island. It's a wide and deep channel that's been modified for barges and other industrial traffic. It also has a arm kind of that goes like this. That's a natural and shallower stream that runs northwest, from the Indiana border. But the Conservation Action Plan really just covers the widened channel.
That's why you're here.
And the African American Heritage Water Trail, which has a related initiative that I'm going to touch on later in the talk, covers basically the same area, but it extends all the way to the village of Robbins on the Calsag Channel. So in order to create this plan for coordinated restoration and for management of the Little Calumet River and its banks, the Conservation Action Plan identifies properties that are high priority for acquisition and protection. And it also identifies industrial and publicly owned properties like forest preserves that are high priority for ecological restoration and management. And you can see some of the spaces that we included in the plan pictured on the left side of the screen here, including the Cleveland Cliffs Steel Mill, formerly ArcelorMittal. And in this picture, you actually see the road between the Cleveland Cliffs Steel Mill over here and Whistler Woods over here, the Forest Preserve site. This photo, let's see, I seem to have, oh, here's my mouse. This photo right here of native flowering plants is really meant to convey that one of the great opportunities that we saw when looking at the different properties along the river was that all of them had spaces and potential to support native-friendly flowering plants. And that doing this restoration at these sites to plant native pollinator-friendly flowering plants step forward in reducing habitat fragmentation so that it could support wildlife such as the monarch butterfly.
Personal question. So why are you here? Why are you here? There's the door. Why are you here? It's a waste of time. Time is wasted.
Hey, Blake, can you put yourself on mute, please? Because you're interrupting the discussion right now.
Thank you. So it can support wildlife such as monarch butterflies, and also so that it can better infiltrate stormwater, which will improve water quality in the Little Calumet River, and also help reduce flooding. So in addition, some of the sites have potential for wetland and savanna restoration as well. And the plan also highlights, as well as plans for ecological restoration, it also highlights strategies to connect communities to the river through development of trails and parks and other open spaces along the river that can be designed by communities to fit their needs and goals. The yellow highlighted area, the yellow highlighted text on the slide here kind of shows the goals from the Conservation Action Plan that are the ones that we've really been focusing on in our work at Beaubien Woods. So this map right here shows the priority sites that we identified for the Little Calumet River Conservation Action Plan. And the green color indicates that the site is either a park or a preserve. And the purple color indicates that the site is mixed ownership but restorable. So some of those sites are industrial sites. Some of them are right-of-ways, say, owned by the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, and some of them are landfills. So the sites taken together include some areas where high quality and remnant habitat still remain. And several of the sites in the project area are owned and managed by the Forest Preserves of Cook County or by the Chicago Park District. And industries and landfills, and also some properties with known contamination are also included, as is some vacant residential land, right-of-ways owned by the Chicago Department of Transportation, ComEd, and Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. And one of the things we did when we were looking at the opportunities for these priority sites is identify threats and opportunities that we saw for achieving the goals of coordinated restoration and also community connection to the river across this area. So our work in Beaubien Woods emphasizes opportunities, and I have under the conservation opportunities, I've circled in red the ones that we're really focusing on in our work in Beaubien Woods, which include creating welcoming spaces, elevating significant history, greening the riverfront, developing maintenance mechanisms for open space, and improving areas that are considered unsightly or uninviting. So as well as looking at threats and opportunities, the Conservation Action Plan also presents conservation targets for each of the priority sites. And the conservation targets include things like restoration of native ecosystems, as well as planting of pollinator-friendly native flowering plants. A lot of the sites that we included in the Conservation Action Plan would actually need soil remediation before historic communities, like Savannah, for example, could be established. But establishment of pollinator-friendly native plants was really attainable at all of the sites that we looked at. And the conservation targets also include animals, some of which are declining species, like the monarch butterfly and shrubland birds. Targets designed to connect communities to natural areas and the river are also priorities here. And they include stewardship, the creation of riverfront open space, as well as recreational opportunities like biking, hiking, and water trails. So the conservation targets are symbolized by the icons that you see here. This is a site sheet for Beaubien Woods Forest Preserve. And you can see from the icons along the right side of the screen here that many conservation targets exist for this site. And conservation targets that we've been focusing on over the past year in Beaubien Woods include planting of native flowering prairie species in the old field sites near Beaubien Woods boat ramp, as well as creating community connections to the river and the habitats along its bank.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I know because I live and work in this area and I do a lot of biking in this area. I see so much of the sedges, the introduced sedges. And I mean, is there any plans for addressing some of those? Because I just think of like along Doty, that's terrible how much overgrowth there is there. And I know that those are so invasive and they, invade in places like Big Marsh and stuff like that. Are there any plans for addressing some of those problems?
Are you, so along Doty, so like along, can you see my cursor? Like along here in Beaubien Woods?
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're doing and what I know of in terms of other restoration that the Forest Preserves is doing is at this point mostly focusing on prairie species. But I'm not sure if the wetland areas are being addressed at this point. But I mean, certainly wetland restoration is something that we prioritize in the conservation action plan, but I'm not sure, if it's going on right now. But if it's, if it's not at all, then hopefully it will, come on board in the future as more.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like stall out your whole conversation there, but I just,
That's okay.
it really bothers me. And I'm like, oh, look at it. And I think it's so invasive and it spreads so aggressively. So thanks.
Yeah, and I do think that, wetland is a really good conservation target for Beaubien Woods. I know, that in terms of the soils at Beaubien Woods, it was a little hard, to figure out what is the best conservation target here. And wetland was one that really kind of rose to the top. And the, with the restoration at other sites down here, like at Big Marsh, it seems like, in the interest in restoring habitat for marsh birds, it does seem like, a priority. I agree with that for sure. So what I wanted you all to see here is that we really feel like Beaubien Woods, as part of the Little Calumet Conservation Action Plan is sort of like an anchor. It's the biggest forest preserve or, park or preserve site in the action plan. It's got a lot of partners focused on working there. And so we think it's a really good example of what can be achieved through partnership. And yes, and I think I already said that it's the largest green site along the river, surrounded by these industrial and landfill sites. So we're hoping it's like kind of an anchor, and that the work done there will kind of serve as a model for what could be done at other sites. So this aerial right here lays out the work that we're doing now, including prairie restoration in the red circled areas. And our work is mostly focused around the Beaubien Woods boat ramp, which is on the western edge of the preserve and is where people can put boats into the Little Calumet River. So the red circled areas are the areas where we're going to do prairie restoration, and also where we're doing thinning of invasive woody vegetation, both in the prairie restoration areas and also along a trail that begins at Carver Military Academy and goes to Flatfoot Lake that you can see here in the orange. And the aim here is to make the trail more inviting to potential hikers and walkers by creating more open sight lines, and just by creating an area that doesn't, appear to be completely overgrown with invasive species.
I teach a bike education classes in that parking lot right there. It's because they just repaved it. It's a really nice parking lot. And I see a ton of high quality wildlife. Yeah, that parking lot right there, right where there's an ever so slight slant to the northwest, and it's perfect for teaching kids how to ride. And I work a lot with Doris Wilson, who's in the neighborhood at the Golden Gate Park, and we do a lot of bike ed stuff. But what I wanted to say was, I see a lot of wildlife in there, and I see a ton of wildlife, and I see a lot of coyotes in the broad daylight. We see, there's a lot of deer in the area. I've seen raccoons. I've even seen a skunk one time, which I don't see a lot of skunks in our area. So I'm really excited to see you doing this restoration. But I got to tell you, I am there all the time, like multiple times a summer. I ride my bike there all the time. I take a kids' bike club. I had no idea those trails were there. So are they going to do some signage and things like that?
I don't know. I know the Forest Preserve is talking about doing some kind of kiosk, here that, but I don't know, but I'll pass that on, because this is a great trail. It's a great way to get from Flatfoot Lake up to Doty here or to Carver Military Academy. It's fun to walk on. Like you were saying, you see wildlife walking on it. I've seen coyotes when I was walking on this trail. Yeah, I'll definitely pass that on to the Forest Preserve. And this trail here, it's kind of new. It was made by the Beaubien Woods youth crew a couple summers ago, I think. And it starts out, you know, through a more woody area and then kind of comes out into the more open area. And it's really, I really like walking along it as well. And the gathering space that we're going to talk about is going to be right here. And they're already kind of enhancing the first part of the trail with wood chips to kind of connect it to the gathering space. So maybe this one at least will become more obvious in the next few weeks as the gathering space is finished. So anyway, yeah, so back to this trail. So right, we're making it more inviting by thinning woody vegetation that's invasive along the trail. And also that it also allows more light to get in for young oak trees so that they can grow and become established. So we originally planned to do this invasive thinning work just at the beginning of the trail where you see this black shape. But we've ended up really working throughout the trail as we've prioritized the work with the forest preserves. And we also have removed dead ash trees. I indicated them right here. In this area, which kind of helps connect, you know, this more prairie area to this little wetland area that's over here. And also removed some dead trees that are here, west of the access road. And we did have some brush mowing done in this area right here, in areas where there was particularly thick woody invasives. So yeah, so that is the work. And when I say we, I'm having trouble advancing my screen again. Sorry about that. And I just try it again. I think I went all the way back to that. There we go, now it's moving. There we go. Okay. So when I say that we are doing the work, I'm referring in large part to Openlands arborist apprentices who are working under the supervision and direction of their Openlands crew leaders, as well as Openlands, Forest Preserve, and Field Museum ecologists. The arborist apprenticeship is it's a 3-year paid job training opportunity for those who would like a career in arboriculture. And Openlands coordinates with tree care companies and industry professionals to provide this training, help create career pathways, and improve recruitment, retention, and diversity of workers in urban forestry.
Laura, I can't help but notice the bonfire there, the fire. Why in the world would they be burning that?
You know, they have to burn the small woody invasives that they remove.
Why?
Because they can re-sprout, and so they want to make sure that they kill them off.
Yeah, and the Forest Preserve requires them to be, you know, burned or removed for that reason.
I just can't buy that.
I have a question. Are you all gonna leave the dead trees for the wildlife, including birds and stuff?
Yeah, many of the dead trees are going to be left, and we did, you walkthroughs with the Forest Preserve District ecologists, and some of them were flagged for removal, but a lot of them are staying for the habitat quality.
So if they're dead and you're cutting them down and you're putting them in piles, why would you burn them?
They burn the small, the stuff that's being burned there, I think, is mostly not, well, it might be trees or branches from trees. And I think it is, I don't know, the Forest Preserve requires us to do that. But all the reasoning behind it, I'm not really sure.
To me, it just seems like it's releasing all that carbon that's sequestered in that wood.
Yeah.
It just seems counter ecological to me. And I just went to an Indiana state park and they said, don't pick up any of the branches from the woods and bring them to your fire. Leave them there so that they return to the soil. This just confounds me.
I will say, as someone who's a site steward over, and was for many years over at part of this, which is at Whistler Woods, we did a lot of brush removal. We would only burn the brush piles from the invasive species. So it's like the buckthorn and stuff like that. And we would do it once a year, and we leave the ashes and everything there. It's not like we're pulling that away. We don't remove that. And like, as Laura was saying, like the native trees, you leave those standing. You don't take those out, even if they die, unless they're like across a trail, in which case you cut the tree, but you don't remove it. You just move it to the side.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. That's helpful. So one of the issues that we really face in restoring and maintaining green open spaces is having a mechanism to actually get that work done, i.e. the restoration and the maintenance. And a conservation opportunity that was identified when we were doing the Little Calumet Conservation Action Plan was to develop, a mechanism for the restoration of open spaces and the maintenance, so they don't just become overgrown with invasive species again over time after restoration. And so apprentice programs and workforce development programs can help address this need and train people for jobs in restoration and other environmental or green industries at the same time. And so one of the things we've been exploring this year is really how restoration and establishment of open spaces along the Little Calumet River can bring employment opportunities to local youth and adults. This is another photo of an apprentice removing invasive species in the prairie restoration area at Beaubien Woods. And this one shows them working along the trail to Flatfoot Lake. So one of the other conservation targets for Beaubien Woods is development of volunteer stewardship within the natural areas. And we worked with Fatima Al-Nuruddin, who's a local restorationist, to recruit volunteers and monitor and remove invasive species, particularly sweet clover and teasel from the prairie restoration areas. I think I went away from this one too soon. So here's Fatima and Chris Bourbois, who's an ecologist at Openlands, looking at the species that are present in the area. And this is just immediately north of the parking lot that we were talking about earlier for biking and bike training. And here you can see Fatima carrying flags. You can see the little orange flags and a bucket. And she was identifying areas where there were so many invasives that our contractor for this project would need to deal with them. And also a bucket to carry invasive sweet clover that she pulls. And Chris Bourbois and I worked with Fatima and also volunteered June Webb weekly last summer to control invasive species in the prairie restoration areas. And we're going to do that again this summer, and also lead the Beaubien Woods youth crew, who's a group of high school students hired through Friends of the Forest Preserves in assisting with the work while learning about restoration and the benefits it has to the environment. So the work is going to prepare the site for the seeding of native flowering pollinator-friendly plants, which is going to take place this coming winter, so 2023 to 2024. And here you can see Fatima in June with tons of sweet clover that we removed on one of our restoration days last summer. There was really, really a lot of sweet clover. So addressing the conservation opportunities of creating welcoming spaces and elevating significant history is the gathering space. Oh, I know I had that one up there. That's currently under construction. And this star shows where the gathering space is. And this trail opening, I drew that, and it should actually be connected to this star and a little bit further south here. So this is the location. It's currently under construction. It's almost finished. It's at the Beaubien Woods boat launch. And it's the gathering space, and it was created by artist Christine Perry after a process led by the Field Museum and a community curatorial committee to select a design from a number of proposals. This is the design. And so that was selected. And the gathering space is an area for community use and programming. And it's it'll serve as a strong point of connection between the community and the river and the restored spaces. And the artist worked in concert with the community group Imani Village. And Imani Village is going to take responsibility for doing programming at the gathering space in the years to come. And this is a model of the gathering space that was created by the artist Christine Perry. These wooden people here are just to represent, you know, people using the gathering space. And so the design has stumps or like rounds of tree sections that are stained blue to represent the river, you know, that moves through the center of it. And it has these carved benches, and these little blue boxes represent like artwork that is that's been done and is being installed in the gathering space. And these are wildlife carvings right here by another artist. And the whole thing is shaped like a boat and is called Prairie Boat. And it's really meant to symbolize the connection between the native landscape, or the sea of prairie, as I like to think of it, that used to stretch across much of this area, and also the African American Heritage Water Trail on the Little Calumet River that, you know, commemorates 200 years of nationally significant history along the Little Calumet and the Calseg Channel. And so Prairie Boat evokes the concept of journeys across the land and water. And this is actually an early picture of installation of Prairie Boat. And you can see here a person in the background. The landscaping here was done by Green Corps, which is another job training program to train people in jobs so that they can move on and actually have green jobs and hold green jobs after the training with Green Corps. So there's going to be a celebration to mark the finishing of the construction of Prairie Boat on June 10th. This is the flyer that's almost ready for distribution. Everybody is welcome. It's going to be Saturday, June 10th from 10 to 11 at Beaubien Woods Boat Launch. And after the celebration, we're going to be offering canoeing tours on the African American Heritage Water Trail in partnership with the Forest Preserve and Wilderness Inquiry. And Wilderness Inquiry brings large canoes that hold 8 to 10 people. And so it's a great way, you know, if you're a beginning paddler, or if you have kids that you want to bring, for them to get out on the water. Every large canoe has a guide in it who, you know, is expert on steering the canoe. So it's a good way to get out on the water and experience the water trail. And yeah, so we wanted to invite you all to take part in this if you would like to. Oh, and this is my my Sea of Prairie picture. This is actually the old field at Beaubien Woods, boat ramp, a picture I took a couple of years ago when we were just first starting the project. And you can see invasive teasel. So, but it's beautiful. It's still beautiful.
That's so cool. I love that. You're going to share that that flyer with us, Michael? Are you going to send that out to people?
Yeah, as soon as it just needs one more approval of the people who have to review it. And
Okay.
so within a day or two, I think it'll be ready, and I will send it to you, Michael. Yeah, and we'll be sending it out, and we would love it, you know, if you would come. So the African American Heritage Water Trail, this is the map of it from the brochure that Openlands and partners produced for the trail. And it was created really to elevate the profile, you know, the Little Calumet River, and, you know, raise up the history so that people would know about it and can celebrate it, and to, you know, and be proud of it because it is really significant. So we worked with community partners to create a brochure and a story map to tell the stories of the water trail. And the water trail begins at Beaubien Woods, you know, where the gathering space will be, and goes all the way to the village of Robbins, which is shown by these red outlines right here. It has nationally significant history associated with it. And we wanted to really highlight the stories and sites important to communities. And so the water trail tells stories of the Underground Railroad, the birth of the environmental justice movement, and the village of Robbins, where many Tuskegee airmen began their training. And it raises also awareness of community assets, such as the local biking group that we were talking about earlier, We Keep You Rolling, run by Dolores Lucas, and also the Robbins History Museum. So this is a picture when we were collecting stories for the brochure and story map. This shows us at the Robbins History Museum, and we collected the stories through a combination of meetings and interviews and written material that was submitted by partners. And this photo shows a meeting at the Robbins History Museum held in July 2019. And this is Tyrone Haymore right here, who is the museum historian, and he's presenting stories from the village of Robbins. And local historians such as Tyrone Haymore and Larry McClellan, who you see sitting next to him right here, who's an Underground Railroad historian, were important in shaping the narratives that we presented in the water trail brochure and in the story map. And then we have other community groups at this meeting as well, including the Little Calumet River Underground Railroad Project, People for Community Recovery, and the Fresh Food Project, Fresh. And they were also important for suggesting stories past, as well as presenting important activities that were currently going on in the neighborhoods for inclusion in the water trail materials. And that included biking activities and initiatives to educate people about and improve environmental quality and water quality. So Openlands and partners such as Michael Taylor, who you see giving a kayaking lesson in this picture. We've been offering canoe-based cleanup of the Little Calumet River and also kayak training annually for the past 10 or 11 years. And now we're also partnering with the Forest Preserves, Friends of the Chicago River, Wilderness Inquiry, and more recently, Chicago Adventure Therapy to present and offer guided tours on the water trail. To also train local interns to interpret the trail and hopefully offer tours in the future. Our goal is really to get to the point where there's a local source of boats and a core of local interpreters and guides so that the water trail can offer economic opportunities for communities as well as education and recreation. And these are pictures from, we worked with Friends of the Forest Preserve interns last year who were high school students, teaching them the themes of the water trail, and each one, and also teaching them paddling skills. And each one of them decided on a theme to research and to do a presentation on at a public event near the end of their internship period. And you can see them here in this Youth in Action slide at that final event, which unfortunately was almost completely rained out, but they managed to do their presentations anyway. And you can see at the bottom, one of them talking about at Geld Gardens neighborhood, and the ones at the top right, we're talking about the Underground Railroad. And we are doing this internship program again this year, partnering with Friends of the Forest Preserves to really teach the youth about the history. And these are photos from our first event on the African American Heritage Water Trail, which took place in 2021. One of the things that we do during tours is try to do a stop at Chicago's finest marina and hear from Ron Gaines, who owns the marina, and Larry McClellan, the Underground Railroad historian, talking about the marina. And also the marina is on the land that was designated by the National Park Service as a Network to Freedom site, or a site on the Underground Railroad. And so they're talking about that and interpreting for people who have gathered around their docks and boats. So they're talking about how freedom seekers crossed the Little Calumet River, escaping slavery in the area where the Indiana Avenue Bridge stands now. And this is just a picture of the group that went on the first African American Heritage Water Trail tour after the tour was over. Oh yes, in this picture you can see we also had some reporters who put this, who covered, the story and did an article and short video about the trail, which brought it to the attention of the New York Times. And it ended up, the Little Calumet River ended up getting included as one of the 52 places for a changed world in 2022. This is my colleague Lillian Holden right here, paddling at that first water trail event and interpreting. So I want to encourage everyone to join us for paddling events that we have going on this next month, actually. And here you can see the large canoes that we're doing these events in. And we have June 10th, which is the paddling that will be right after the gathering space celebration at Beaubien Woods. And we'll be doing paddling also on June 11th and June 12th. And you can sign up for these via Eventbrite. And I put the URL up here, and I will definitely send this to you, Michael, so that you can send it out to everyone who is here. And we would love it if you would join us for this. It's all free, but you do have to pre-register.
You know, is there any way we could drop that into the chat box so people could click on that?
Let's see if I can do that. Okay, it has been dropped into the chat box.
Thank you.
All right, let's see if I can. I was, now that I've done that. All right.
The link works great. So if anyone clicks on it, it takes you right to the page.
All right, and I just want to show our partners here. Okay. So obviously I'm the one who's been telling you about all this work, but this is really a true partnership of many organizations and individuals, many of whom I've listed here have all been, really instrumental in doing this work. One of the great things about Beaubien Woods is that so many people are working there. And I feel like it really, comes together as a model of cooperation and what can be achieved through that cooperation. And so that is pretty much the end of my presentation. Oh, I see I didn't put it back in presenter mode. I'm going to show you a coyote picture. If I can get it back in presenter mode, it's behaving kind of oddly. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to click on it. Okay, actually, I think I don't seem to be able to select it. So I'll just end with this slide and ask if people have questions about anything.
This was great. Thank you so much. It was really informative. And it's really exciting to see all these plans going on. Like, I knew about the African American Water Trail, but I really didn't know like exactly where that was or what it looked like. And my daughter and I have kayaks, and I'm like, I'm planning on going out there now and like checking it out and seeing if we can like do some paddling before the event to get a little practice in. Because I think we could do it pretty easily. So
yeah, one thing to keep in mind if you're going by yourself is that it is a channel that's navigated by like barges and power boats. So you have to be kind of ready to experience enough to deal with the wakes and get out of their way in case that happens.
yeah.
But you are, it's a great place. And if you're more at the beginning level, like sites like Kickapoo Woods on the shallow, more natural stream portion are great places to go and practice.
Yeah, I
Hey,
think both like too,
Hey,
right?
Miss Neely, how you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Neely, how you doing? This is Blake.
Hi, Blake.
Can she hear me? Cause My brother used to go to school at St. Francis.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we all can.
St. Francis.
My school is St. Francis de Sales, so that's where I teach.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna plan to see you one day in person to talk about not only my community farm, which is at Urban Growers Collective on 89th Mackinac, and my life as an artist. And I've drawn a ton of wildlife pictures of from the Calumet area.
Yeah.
And it has inspired me a lot.
I think you gave some of your pictures, or at least one, to Durs Anderson, and he had it in his office, and it is so beautiful.
How's Durs, by the way?
He's good.
And what's new with him?
You know, he's working a lot on the, you know, connecting the Burnham Trail, what he calls the Burnham Gap, to, you know, connect the trail, so there'll be a continuous trail. So he's working a lot on trails, and yeah, and he's doing pretty well.
And is he working on anything on Lake Calumet in terms of bird life and stuff?
You know, he did give a lot of input to the master plan that was adopted recently to try to, you know, ensure that habitat restoration was going to take place, and to try to ensure that there'd be public access. So yeah, he's really worked hard on that.
And is there still at Openlands down at the downtown office?
No, he's not really at the downtown office. He's mostly working from home. And he's kind of semi-retired, but there are certain projects he's still very active on.
And will we see each other again at the luncheon this year, in this fall?
You mean will you see Durs?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's planning to go to the luncheon, but possibly.
Is there anybody filling in Durs' place right now? It is former downtown office.
You know, there is not someone, you know, working on those specific trail projects right now that he's doing, but I think there is an effort to really, you know, understand what he's doing so that we can, you know, carry it on if he decides to fully retire further down the road. There's a general understanding that Durs has all this knowledge that we try to learn as much as we can. Are there any other?
What are the key plant species that you're bringing back into your prairie habitat near Beaubien?
I don't actually have the list. Our conservation ecologist, I know he's made a list and he's even ordered the seeds. But some things that we found growing there when we were doing the invasives monitoring that we were even thinking of, you know, trying to collect seeds from it, or making sure that we had a source of seeds for them, was nodding onion was there. I remember, I'm trying to remember the other species. I think there were milkweeds there. Anyway, I would have to get the list from Chris Bourbois, who is the one who is leading that, you know, who's the one who's leading the restoration of the prairie there and who's ordering the seeds. I don't have them off the top of my head. But I think it's about like maybe 30 or 40 species that are going to be seeded there. Michael, it looks like you're talking, but you're muted.
I give the best talks that way. But anyway, I just want to thank you for coming tonight. And it's nice seeing your mother again. And we'll see you all on August 15th, which is our next meeting. And I think our speaker that evening will be Jane Healy of Blake's high school. And
Cal, it's my brother's former school, my brother Cal.
oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you went there.
I graduated from Washington High School in 2004.
Oh, okay. All right. So thank everybody for coming, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Good job. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Okay.